Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Well, hey there, my fellow author, and welcome to this episode of the Confident Fiction Author podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today we are going to be talking about the one tool that can 10x your writing life. Now, before you roll your eyes at that number, just stay with me because I mean something very specific by it, and it might not be what you think. Maybe you've heard promises like this before and thought, sure, and where exactly am I supposed to find 10 times the hours in my life? I can barely find the time that I've got. If that's you, you're exactly who this episode is for, because the whole point of today is that 10x was never about more hours or more hustle. In fact, I'm going to make the case that 10x is easier than 2x. Let's get into it. Let's start with a little math problem. Not scary math, I'm talking writer math. Say you currently type 1,000 words in a writing session. Now imagine I challenged you to double that, 2,000 words per session starting this week. Could you do it? Honestly, you probably could, at least for a while. And I want you to picture what that would actually take. You'd have to type faster, so your hands and your wrist are working harder. You would have to sit longer, so your back and your neck are paying more for it. You'd have to concentrate harder for more of your writing session, so that you're going to end up feeling drained more than you already do. And every single one of those 1,000 extra words that would be squeezed out of the same method you're doing right now, just you're pushing harder. And that's what we call the 2x trap. And here's the definition I want you to hold on to. 2x thinking is doing more of what you're already doing. Same method, more effort, doing more hours in the chair, more strain through the wrist, more willpower to push through, and more willpower burned per word. And my fellow author, we talked about this a few weeks ago back in the Building a Sustainable Fiction Writing Career, and a method that costs you more body and more energy for every additional word is not a career strategy. It's a countdown. You might hit 2,000 words a session for a month, but ask your wrist whether you'll hit it for 20 years. Here's the sneaky part. The 2x trap feels responsible. It feels like discipline. Write more, try harder, want it more. We wear it like a badge. But effort applied to the wrong vehicle does not multiply your writing life. It just spins you faster. Now, let me flip this whole thing over, and I want to give credit where it's due, because this idea reshaped how I think about my author career. There's a book I love called 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And the big idea goes like this. If you set out to improve something by 10X, your brain says, great, we can get there by grinding. Just keep everything the same and we're just going to push harder. Doubling is within your current method, so you just never question that method. But if you set out to improve something by 10x, grinding is off the table. You cannot white knuckle your way to 10 times anything. The goal is so big that it forces the only question that actually matters. What would have to change about how I'm doing this? And that's exactly why 10x is easier than 2x. The 2x path keeps all the strain and just multiplies it. The 10x path makes you drop the strain entirely and find a different vehicle. 2x asks for more of your effort. 10x asks for your imagination. You've already lived this, by the way. When you moved from writing by hand to typing and getting more words, probably doubling or even quadrupling your speed, you didn't get there by just handwriting faster until your pen started smoking. You changed the vehicle. Nobody looks back on that shift and calls it hustle. It was just a better way to get words down. So the question I want to plant in your mind is this: what if typing isn't the final vehicle for your writing life? What if it's your generation's handwriting? So here's the one tool. And if you've been with me the last few weeks, you can probably feel it coming, but I want you to hear it inside this 10x frame, because this is the frame that finally made it click for me. And that tool is dictation, writing your fiction by speaking it. Now, watch the math, because this is where it gets fun. Does dictation double your writing speed? Yes, for most authors who train in speaking their words, speaking produces roughly twice the words of typing in the same time window, sometimes more. My own writing speed doubled when I made the switch. But if that's all dictation did, it would actually just be a 2x tool, and this would be a shorter episode. But here's why I call it a 10x jump in your writing life. Dictation doesn't just double your output. It makes the writing easier while it doubles it. That's the difference that changes everything. Remember the 2x trap, where every extra word costs you more effort? Dictation breaks the trade. More words, less strain. Faster and easier at the same time. Think about what that unlocks across your whole writing life, not just your word count. Your body gets easier sessions, no wrist grinding, no hunching, and you can write on your feet. I dictate while I walk. I dictate also while I'm lying down and just giving my body a rest. I can dictate for 2 hours and come away energized when typing used to leave me wrung out. Your schedule gets easier. Pockets of time that were worthless for typing suddenly count. The carpool line, picking up your kids, in the kitchen while doing the dishes, out on the walking trail. One of my students, Liz, dictated at the gym while she was on the treadmill. And so she's doubling her word count and her steps in the same hour. Another author I know dictated nearly 15,000 words over a long drive, and that was just going at an easy storytelling pace. And your mind gets easier sessions too. Speaking outruns your inner editor, so drafts move forward instead of getting sanded down mid-sentence. That's more words, less physical pain, found time that you wouldn't have gotten your writing in, lighter sessions. Stack those together, and you're not looking at a 2x improvement in typing speed. You're looking at a 10x improvement in the whole life around the words. That's why 14 dictated books later, I don't describe dictation as a faster keyboard. I describe it as the different vehicle. It's the change the 10x question was pointing to all along. Now, the 10x is easier than 2x book that I mentioned has a second idea that I have to be honest with you about, because it's the part that nobody really likes, but we all need. Going 10x always means letting go of what got you here. So Sullivan and Hardy in their book talk about releasing the 80% of what you do that's merely good so that you can go all in with the 20% that's great. And when the vehicle is your writing method, letting go gets personal. Let me tell you how personal. For years, I wrote my book on a little device called the Neo by AlphaSmart. This was a Neo 2. It was a humble little battery-operated keyboard with a tiny screen and no internet. I loved that thing. I wrote several books on it. So when I switched to dictating my fiction, do you know what I did with my Neo? I put it on a shelf, and I kept it there for 5 years. Just in case, just in case dictation didn't work out. 5 years and 14 dictated books, and that little keyboard sat there like a lifeboat I couldn't admit I no longer needed. When I finally sold it on eBay, it wasn't really about the money. It was me accepting all the way down that I was never going back, that I wasn't a typist who dictated sometimes. I was a fictator. That's my word for a fiction author who dictates, and claiming it was a part of letting go. I'm telling you about the Neo because your version of it is coming. Maybe it's the idea of being this nostalgic writer hunched over the keyboard. Maybe it's the pride of the grind because the 2X badge it really is hard to take off. Maybe it's just the comfort of the method you already know. Letting go doesn't mean you'll never type again. I still type plenty. It means you stop letting the old vehicle define what your writing life is allowed to become. And no, you don't have to sell anything on eBay this week. You just have to loosen your grip enough to try the new vehicle. So let's land this plane. If you try to 2X your writing life, you'll do it by pushing your current method harder. And your current method will push back through your wrist, your back, your energy, and your calendar. But if you aim at 2X, the goal itself forces the better question. Not, how do I do more of this? But what's the different way? And for fiction authors, I'm convinced the different way is dictation. Not because it's trendy, but because it's the rare tool that raises your output and lowers your cost at the same time. That's the whole 10X equation in one sentence. More story, less strain. Your action step for this week is to catch yourself in one 2X thought. One moment where your plan for your writing life amounts to just push harder. Name it. Maybe it's posting more on social media or increasing your word count. And then ask yourself the 10X question instead. What would have to change about how I'm doing this? Sit with that answer, even if it makes you glance nervously at your keyboard. And if that answer is pointing where I think it's pointing, here's your open door. And it is closing soon. So my app, Fictate, is the only app I know of built specifically for dictating fiction authors. And it's in beta right now, totally free while we're in beta. But those beta spots do close this week before we get ready to launch the app to the public. So if you've been waiting for a sign to finally try the new vehicle of dictating your fiction, this is it. The link is in the show notes, and you can also go to fictateapp.com. That's Fictate, basically dictate with an F instead of a D. So fictateapp.com to join the beta testers while that is still open. You'll get to come try dictation with the tool that was built exactly for this. And you'll get to share your feedback to share what the app ultimately becomes. I'd love to hear the 2X thought you caught yourself in this week. Come on over to my Substack at fictioncourses.substack.com and drop a comment on this episode. I'm going to leave you with one final thought as you are processing through your 10X vision. What got you here won't get you there. That is all for this episode, my friend. I will see you in the next one of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. Take care.